All right, so now we're going to look at the methodology. The methodology is worth 4 marks, and I believe this is 4 simple marks that you can easily get as long as you follow this outline. For the methodology, you're basically stating the method that you use to collect data. Within the methodology, you're going to give a clear statement when the data was collected. So when did you go to that site? You're going to give the date, the month, the year, and the time if necessary. If you don't give the time, you're not going to be marked down. But as long as you have when, the date, right, you will get your mark. In the methodology, you need to state where the data was collected. So if you went to Falmouth, in addition to giving me September 10, 2020, we visited Falmouth, the port in Falmouth, Trelawney. So you need to state where. And then finally, for the methodology, to get that 4 marks, you need to give a clear statement on how the data was collected. What did you do to gather information for your report? Questionnaires are a method, observation checklists, and so on, taking pictures using a camera. So that is the how. Field reports or data for field reports are collected. And you're going to write that up in your SBA under the heading methodology. Let me show you a sample. Here it is. So you're going to put the headings when and where and the how. Right? You can separate the when from the where if you want, but as long as everything is there, you will get your 4 marks. So for this student, right, they wrote on October 10, 2019, the St. James High School grade 11 geography students went on a field trip to the cruise ship port in Falmouth, Trelawney. So they have their when and they have their where. Now, let us look at the how. Data was collected using primary and secondary sources. Now, what do we mean by primary and secondary sources? Primary source is a data that you collect for yourself. So if you go and take a picture, that is a primary source. If you go and do an interview with somebody, that's a primary source. You are the one collecting the information. Secondary source now is the source we get from textbooks, from maps, from the internet. Somebody else went ahead and collected that information for you. So we regard that as secondary source. Do you understand? Do you guys understand? All right. So Peyton, are you here with us? Peyton is not here. All right, so when we talk about primary and secondary, primary is the data that you collect firsthand. Secondary is the data that you collect from somebody who actually went and collect that data already. So the book was written by somebody, you got information from the book, we regard that as a secondary source. All right, so let us look what this person has. It says primary data was collected using the interview method and a camera was used to take photographs of the facility. Secondary data was collected from textbook, maps, the internet. A copy of the interview questions will be shown in the appendix. So whatever primary source you used, whether it's a questionnaire or interview, you must have a copy of the questions for the interview or the questions on the questionnaire. So one must be in the appendix. What all of that, that is your 4 marks right there. All right, the next criteria is the presentation of data, which is 4 marks. Presenting your data, you need to use illustrations. What do I mean by illustrations? For example, graphs, whether it's a bar graph, a line graph, tables, labeled photographs, so the photographs that you took, You're going to give it a title, you're going to label it. All right, and all of this data must be something that you collected. So you cannot take a picture from the internet and put it in the presentation of data. You will lose marks for that. It must be a picture that you took. You cannot take a table from the internet and put in the SBA. It must be a table that you created. So the data presented must be based on your field work. It says here, it should be the candidate's original work, no copies, nothing from secondary sources. The diagrams must be accurate. So if you have percentages there, they must add up. It must be relevant, meaning it must relate to your topic. It must be neat, labeled, and have your title. So with all of that, 4 marks. You are marked out of 4 for the quality of the data. So after I've looked at your diagrams, I have to assess now the quality. Was it appropriate? Right? Did you use a diagram that was appropriate in showing what you want to show? Was it accurate? Was it relevant? Did it achieve your aim? So if your aim was to find out the factors influencing the location, I need to assess now, did your diagram achieve the aim? Did it show the factors? And that's 4 marks. Now, you're not just going to have your diagrams and just leave them. You have to discuss them. So the discussion of your diagrams and analysis of your diagrams, that's marked out of 10. 8 marks will go to organizing your points and discussing the points. And then another 2 marks will go to utilizing your pictures and your illustrations within the discussion. So you're not just going to have if you're having 4 diagrams, you're not just going to put the 4 diagrams and leave them. Your analysis and discussion must be integrated into diagrams. Now, what do I mean by that? Let us look at the sample. All right, so now this example, presentation and analysis, so everything is together. The diagrams along with the analysis and discussion. So if you notice, the person created their subheading to discuss under. So their first subheading, cruise tourism in Jamaica, where they talk about cruise tourism. Remember, their aim was on the factors influencing location. So they start now talking about the factors, highlighting the geographic factor. Scroll down too fast. All right, highlighting the geographic factor. Talk about cruise passenger arrivals, and they integrate a diagram right there in their discussion. Whenever you're putting diagrams, you need to make mention of them. Right? It says here, so here is the mention, so you don't just drop down the diagram there. The pie chart figure 1 shows the percentage cruise ship passengers by region. The Port of Falmouth has visitors from China and so on. So you must be mentioning something while you're presenting the diagram. Next, heading the history of Falmouth, and then there is a table now showing the size of the port, the length and depth. Falmouth has a rich heritage. The table below shows the specifications of the terminal. So your diagrams, it's like you're writing a book and you're integrating pictures or diagrams in your book while you're discussing and making notes on whatever you're presenting in the book. So it's similar to that. It's unique as a port, and a photograph is placed there to show the uniqueness. The photograph is labeled and have a title. So basically, this is the presentation, analysis, and discussion of data. Right? They show picture of the pedicab that is there. And that's it for the presentation. Going back to the criteria. All right, so the conclusion are 4 marks. You're going to just summarize your aim, your methodology, and the data that is collected. So the things that were presented, what was the main point? What was your aim? What was your method? Finally summarizing your main point. Now there is an additional 4 marks for communication of the information and 1 mark for your bibliography. Right? So communication, how was your grammar? How was your spelling? No grammatical errors or flaws? Using appropriate geographical terms, so you have to use the geography language, right? Use the terms that you have learned. 4 marks. And the bibliography, 1 mark. Let us look at the sample conclusion. So in the conclusion, you're going to state your aim, as I said before, your methodology, and then you're going to summarize the main points for the data that was collected. Let us scroll up a bit and look back at what the aim was. The aim was to describe the factors influencing the location of the Falmouth port. So in our conclusion, we must mention the aim, memorize those factors. So in concluding, sorry about that, let me scroll back down. On October 10, 2019, the St. James High grade 11 students went on a field trip to the cruise ship port in Falmouth, Trelawney. An interview with a representative at the port. There are some errors there. There was an interview with a representative from the port, and a camera was used to take photographs of the facility. So they have stated what the aim was and what their method was. Textbooks, maps, internet were used, the aim, and so on. Now they're summarizing. The main factors influencing the location of the Falmouth port are geography, history, and uniqueness. Falmouth is in close proximity to Florida and the Panama Canal. This makes it so all the factors that were listed under the study. Let me go back up and look at these factors again. So the main factors that I cited were geography. So in the summary, the person is just stating the main point for geography, stating the main point for history, stating the main point for, I think the last one was uniqueness of the port. So that is what they did here basically for 4 marks. Remember, there should be a word limit of 1,000 words. The bibliography, at least 3 books must be in your bibliography. So these are 3 geography books, and this is how you'd write your bibliography. Now you can always go on the internet and look at examples as to how you do a bibliography, or you can use your computer. You can create your bibliography by going to references, manage sources. If you're going to put in, I have some books already in mind. If you're going to put in new books, you select the type of source. It's a book. It tells you what to fill out. The author's name. It tells you how to fill out the author's name. It says, for example, Kramer, comma, so you know the last name is first, and then the first name. The title of the book. If you don't have a computer, Davin, you're going to have to get one. As I said before, you're going to be in groups. So I will place you so that at least one person in the group has a computer. And that would be it for the Geography SBA. And here is the appendix where they have a sample of the interview questions. I hope the information is useful.